Hi, friends. It's your girl Harpo. Welcome to this episode of Brown Girl Guilt titled Make a List, Check It Twice. This episode is part of season 6 of Brown Girl Guilt titled Harpo's Love Life, a series of misfortunate events. I'm taking you all through my love life and exposing all the romantic shenanigans that I have been through, that I have created or experienced. And honestly, it's been kind of fun. It's been really fun to lead you all through the ups and downs of all of it. There have been so many lessons that I've learned. I feel like some of the greatest lessons that I've learned in life have been in love and in romantic relationships. And it would be such a disservice and such a dishonor and honestly such a waste if I didn't actually put all those lessons and findings and musings into podcast episodes for the rest of the world to hear. So this episode, Make a List, Check It Twice, is probably exactly what you think it is. It's about that list that you make, whether you make it, you write it down, or you have a list in your heart, in your mind, of the kind of partner that you want to attract. And, if it's a practice that you haven't done yet, if it's something that you haven't done, I really encourage you to do it. I feel like it's so good to have a clear idea or even a general idea of what kind of person you want to spend your life with. If that's what you're into, if monogamy is your thing, if divine partnership is what you want in life. I think it's something that is so helpful because if you don't have a general sense of what it is that you want or you want to attract or the kind of person you want to be with, you'd be like looking out into the dating pool, like with like a very, very broad general sense. And you might not be able to fully narrow down and you know cultivate a kind of partnership that really works for you. So I've got my journal in my hand and I really wanted to walk you through my list and share with you what's on my list. And it's really personal, of course, but between me and you guys, what's even secret anymore? There's nothing that's a secret anymore. Before I do share my list, though, I kind of want to like set the intention of this episode and tell you why this episode is important. I saw a tweet once years ago and it really changed my perspective and changed the way that I approach, like a physical list of the kind of partner that I want, but then also like that, that feeling, that like listicle feeling that you have in your heart and your mind. So the tweet was something about like, so many of you are so quick to say that you want a patient partner, you want a kind partner, you want an ambitious partner, but are you those things? Are you all of those things? Like, are you patient? Are you compassionate? Are you kind? Are you ambitious? And I feel like where I was at in my, my journey of self-love and my consciousness and awareness of myself at that time, I don't think I fully understood how exactly that idea works. I think for me at the time, it was like, well, you can't really ask for things that you don't already embody. And, like, of course, I think there's um, a lot of room for making relationships based on similar values, right? Like, the kinds of values that we have are normally the kinds of people that we want them to have similar values to us as well. So I think at that time, that's sort of how I understood it. But now all these years later, I think about how we are literally mirrors for the people in our lives, right? So if we're a mirror and we're reflecting out into the world, we're projecting out into the world, or if we're, and then if you, under that premise, other people are mirrors to us. So if we're looking into the mirror and we're seeing a specific thing reflected back to us, it's because it's what's being projected onto the mirror, right? So what we are is what we receive. The energy that we are is the energy that we receive. And so this idea of, I want a partner who's compassionate and patient and ambitious. Well, those things are only going to come back to us, reflected back to us, if we are projecting those things as well, right? So it's so important for us to ensure that the things that we are looking for are things that we embody as well. And that's why it says to make a list and check it twice. Don't just check it once, check it 2 times, check it 3 times if you need to, because we have to go through our list and ask ourselves, like, the kinds of person that I'm trying to attract, the kind of person I want to bring into my life, like, is there room for them here? Am I that person? Do I live my life based on the same values and principles? Right? So let's get to my list. I know we're all curious to hear my list. So in 2021 is when I made my first ever list. I think before I never really had a concrete list. I sort of had a general idea of like what I wanted and didn't want. And mind you, I've been on very many dates in life. I feel like I don't know why, actually. I don't know why. I've been on a lot of dates, and going on these dates was actually perfect for me. It was really, really, a learning opportunity because when you're not going on dates, when you're not interacting, when you're not meeting people, you're not able to tell what you like and what you don't like. And so I always encourage like going on that date, unless it makes you feel really, really uncomfortable and really unsafe. I always encourage going on that date because you might learn something. You might learn something about yourself. You might learn something about what you like and don't like. You might learn something about the world. You might learn a fun fact that will help you later. You might make a connection. You never know, right? So going on these dates will open you up to other people, but it'll help you refine that list. So before 2021, when I was dating and I was at and about, I didn't have a list. And then in 2021 I decided, okay, I feel like I've accumulated enough experience, and it was the pandemic and we weren't really going out much. It was just me, myself, and my journal. I figured, okay, I'm going to write this list out. So in 2021 I wrote two lists, and they were at different times of the year. So I want to start with my first list, which was really, I feel like now when I look back at it, I don't think it's superficial or anything, but I just feel like it was based on the kind of person that I was at the beginning of 2021 with limited understanding. So what I did at that time was I split my list into different sections. So I split it up into physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So physically, I wanted to attract somebody who, liked to listen to music, was low key, likes to chill, likes to hang out, likes to cuddle, likes to laugh, is really okay with like comfortable silence. We're not necessarily like running to fill space. Somebody that really liked fun banter, somebody who liked PDA because I love holding hands, I love like hugging and kissing in public, and somebody who was like open and talkative, right? So that was what I written down on my physical list. And then for the mental component, it says someone that, oh, sorry. Okay. So the title of this is what I want in a relationship, not necessarily a partner. So mentally in my relationship, I want to feel comfortable as my whole self. I want space to be honest. I want my relationship to be mentally stimulating. I want this person to have emotional maturity and intelligence. Um, I want my relationship to have boundaries, and I want to feel like there's reciprocity in my relationship. I'm going to turn the page so that I can read you all what I've written down for emotionally. So what I wanted in my relationship emotionally is freedom to cry, right? To voice high vibrating and low vibrating emotions. So to be able to express when I'm happy, but then to be able to express when I'm feeling sad. I want something that is like a partner who knows and understands like his own trauma, his own childhood wounds. And then somebody like who is intuitive and, for our relationship to have emotional understanding. And then spiritually, I wanted to call in someone who meditates in any form, right? Whether that is like they have a yoga practice, they go to the gym, like they go for walks, whatever it is, but they have a meditative practice, somebody who respects his body, somebody who believes and trusts in spirit and something bigger than himself, somebody who views sex as a sacral energy exchange of give and take and not necessarily, like the superficial understanding that capitalism and the patriarchy has entrenched in us, and somebody who challenges me to be better, right? So, not a bad list, right? Not a bad list at all. And at the same time, I'd also written what I don't want in a relationship. So I wrote down I don't want codependency. I don't want to feel like I'm Bob the Builder and then I'm fixing the person. I don't want there to be a lack of self-awareness. I also really want there to be friendship. I don't want any games. I don't want manipulation. I don't want narcissism. I don't want to have hiding and secrets and insecurities. I don't want to have emotional labor. Like I don't want to be doing emotional labor in this relationship. So this is the list. This is a series of lists that I'd made at the beginning of 2021. And while it's not a bad list at all, like anything that I've shared with you is not necessarily bad. It's just reflective of where I was at in my journey with myself at the time. And I feel like a lot of this list is like, now looking back at it, I feel like a part of it is not I'm not going to say it's not realistic. I just feel like it doesn't really leave room for like human error, and it doesn't leave room for natural, normal human experiences. Like to say that I want a relationship where there's no insecurities, that's not true. That's not going to happen. Insecurities are always going to come up, right? So for me to say that I want a relationship where there's no insecurities is just not plausible. It's just not realistic. And I feel like when I look at the list of like what I want split up into four different categories and then compared it to, what I don't want in a relationship, there's a lot going on there. Like there's a lot going on there. And I don't feel like it's clear enough. It's not concise enough. It just feels like I'm throwing anything I can at the wall and seeing what sticks. And so it's a very overwhelming list. And like, to be fair, I didn't resonate with that list for very long. Like it sort of sat in my journal, sat in my shelf, and I never really went back to it. And, I feel like I was sort of attracting like a jumble of people. Like I was constantly attracting people of all sorts of different kind and dating people of all different sorts of kind, but not necessarily feeling like I was clear. And it's because my list wasn't clear. So at the end of the summer in 2021, I decided I was going to make a brand new list. I was feeling really grounded. I think the summer is just such a good time for you to do this kind of divine work because, there's a lot of bright light, there's a lot of flow, and there's a lot of like warm energy in the air. And so I made another list. I felt really grounded. I felt really rooted. And, I wasn't really being swayed by my attachment to anyone or anything. And so I was able to write a brand new list. And so to contextualize this list, this is the list that I still use and I reference and I come back to. And so I know it was a good list because it's sort of, it's stood the time. And when I made this list, I wrote down not things about how this person would treat me or not. I didn't write down anything that was in relation to me. It was all about what this person can offer themselves. And I'm not going to claim that that's the best way to make a list. I'm not even going to tell you that that's how you should make a list. I'm just sharing that this is how I made my list. I made a list of a partner, and then I wrote down characteristics and practices and actions and traits that this person is extending to themselves. And I'll share with you in a second why I did that. Because to me, I didn't even want to make a list of like, okay, well, I want him to treat me like this, and I want him to do this. I want him to make this much money, and da da da. I didn't write any of that down. I simply wrote down a list of what I want his relationship with himself to be like. So I will read you everything on this list. And mind you, I come back to this list and I write down new points to this list all the time as I journey through life. So it's a little bit of a long list, but I'll try my best to get through it. I would love for you to stay with me through all of it. So the title of this list is My Love. So it says, my love is spiritual, is a good person, a kind, gentle person, feels like light gold and white light, is grounded, humble, happy and content, joyous. My love is respectful, soft, helpful, and beautiful. My love is generous, giving, grateful, is a learner and open to learning. My love is open, balanced, honest, and reflective. My love is also cute, cuddly, warm, fit, and toned. Oh, I love me some toned shoulders. I can't even begin to tell you what effect toned shoulders have on me. But my love is passionate, attentive, selfless, but cares, loves, and respects himself. My love speaks, moves, and breathes in love. My love is supportive, understanding, open, and feels like home. He communicates, he sits with himself, he listens to himself, is self-aware, hears himself, and does not abandon himself. He treats himself well and he treats himself often. He has beautiful friendships. He understands his kin, his family, and he is self-sufficient but open to care, love, attention, and help. My love loves himself, understands his divine being, and is in love with his human journey. He's committed to healing, nourishing himself, and he feels fresh. My love asks me questions. He is curious about me and my life, my passions, and what drives me, what my purpose and mission is, and what my vision for life is. He makes me feel desirable, sexy, like a goddess. He feels safe. My love also leads in divine masculine leadership, and he can guide me and teach me, love me and nourish me along the way. My love is trustworthy and trusting. He is nice and kind to service workers. He's really nice to customer service workers. My love is a compassionate leader. He's attentive and balanced, and he's a centered leader. He also knows his worth and believes he deserves what he wants. He doesn't settle for crumbs. He knows he's enough, and he is patient and doesn't rush. So that's my list. And again, I'm still working on it. Like I'm still adding to it. I think sometimes I'll go around and I'll see things in other people, or I'll learn things about myself and I'll say like, okay, you know what? I want this in my partnership as well. And so every time that I read this list, it's not to compare it. Like it's not to like take the guy that I'm talking to or take the guy that I'm seeing or the Instagram crush that I have and hold him up against this list. It's never for that. And I'll tell you what I do with this list. Okay, you ready for it? I hold myself to this list. I check this list often and I check it thoroughly and consistently to make sure that I'm showing up as all of those things. Am I showing up as a centered, grounded leader? Am I taking care of my body? Am I working on my shoulders and building sexy shoulders? Right? Because the truth is that the kind of person that I want to attract into my life is only going to come into my life if I am those things too, right? Or I'm committed to working towards being those things. No one is ever going to wake up and be all of those things, right? I'm never going to wake up and be every single one of those things. I might be 15% of those things. I might be 90% of those things, but I might be 100% of those things for like maybe 30 seconds. But the truth is that I'm working towards building this as a standard for myself in my life. And so I have to ask myself, am I those things, right? To go back to that tweet that I shared about earlier in the episode, it's like, I'm so quick to want these things in another person, but it's like, how can I ask another person to be all those things if I'm not those things, right? That's so hypocritical and it's unfair and it's just not justifiable. And so I come back to this list often and I check and I say, okay, Harpo, are you being these things? Are you holding yourself up to this standard, right? You've made this nice big fancy list and you want to attract this person, but you have to become these things first. And we always like hear like people being like, it's like so cliche, but it's like my competition is me and nobody else. That is so true. Like I want to be better than the version that I was, the day before and the week before, the month before, the year before, the decade before. And that's not to say that like those versions of me didn't deserve love. Those versions of me deserve immense love. And I'm using the learnings of those different versions of me and bringing them to this version of me so that I can unlearn those things and I can undo those things and then create room and space for this list of mine to flourish. And then to top all of it off, it's like I have to work on believing that I am worthy and deserving of calling that person in. I've said this in multiple episodes during this season, and I'm not afraid to repeat it again and again and keep telling this to us, to both you and to me as we're engaging in this conversation. Like, I'm not afraid to repeat that again and again, that we have to consider ourselves deserving and worthy of all that we want to call in. And we actually have to consider ourselves deserving and worthy of being this standard. Like, I am good enough to be the standard, right? I am a kind, compassionate, really like open, good person, right? And I am these things. I am balanced. I am centered. I am a good leader. I have to believe these things about myself because if I don't believe them, nobody else will, right? So I'm going to say to you again, make a list, check it twice, see what works, see what doesn't work, and consistently come back to this standard for yourself. Every day I wake up and I have to remind myself of what I'm deserving of and what I'm worthy of, because girl out here forgetting. Okay. I always forget. Every day I move through the day and I'm like, okay, I forgot what I'm actually worthy of, what I'm deserving of. So I remind myself every day, but I don't hold this list up all the time. Like, I'm not like, okay, hold on 1 second. Like, you just entered my life. You want to be my friend. Let me you want to date me? Like, okay, 1 second. Let me just pull up my list. I don't do that. But I feel like I remind myself of this list and what I want to embody and become, often enough that I become that. I am an embodied version of that. And so I can intuitively tell when someone shows up in my life, whether they are they're deserving of my time and energy and my attention, right? So make a list, check it twice, and ask yourself, all those things that you want to call into your life, are you those things? Are you the exemplified version of all that it is that you want to also call into your life?